in recognition of and appreciation for the Christ light within each of us and the presence of the divine in our gathering.
Thank you. Well, let's drop over for a couple of announcements before we get started here. There we go. So today we're going to take a load off. There's no reason for a real estate team meeting, at least I don't think so, unless we get an update from our real estate agent. For those who are not familiar, we are closing on the sale of our building 1 week from Wednesday. So there's still a fair amount that needs to be done. We've got a bunch of stuff in our building that needs to find a new home, and so that's going to we're going to have I didn't get in the announcements here, but we're going to have a gathering at the facility coming up on Saturday, next Saturday. What is that? The 26th at 11:30. Bring your own food. We'll gather either on the front lawn or back in the parking lot, and from time to time people can go into the building, browse the things that are still there, and if you have transport, take them to your home. Otherwise we will take what is remaining, load it into a truck over to ARC, and those things that ARC won't take we'll put into a roll-off, and we'll be ready to clean the building on Tuesday, the 29th. So if you are interested in either of those projects, make a note of them. Or not projects, but gatherings. Make a note of it. We could use a team of 5 or 6 people to clean the building. And when we gather, we will gather outside. We won't gather inside. When you go inside, you'll see why we won't gather inside. But we also want to restrict the number of people that are in the building at the same time. So,
David, have people bring their own chair too.
Bring your own
chairs. You want to sit outside?
Yep.
Right?
Bring your own chairs. And thank you for that reminder. So, Maestro, if you would, accompany us for Love is Flowing.
Jerry. Just moved your glasses off. I'll be on silent. Flowing out from you and me. Flowing out into the depths. Setting all the captives free. Okay, that's really good. Flowing like a river, flowing out from you and me.
Thank you, Doug. And together, our affirmation of Living Water Unity. Living Water Unity is a thriving spiritual community inspired to embrace and share our abundant good now. I am empowered for joyful living by expressing God in each moment. And if someone would like to read our daily word this morning.
I got it.
Okay. Oh, well, go ahead.
Sorry. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't done this before.
All right.
Today's word is smile. I share the joy and love of God when I smile.
Even if a language barrier prevents me from understanding another's words, I know that most people will respond to a friendly smile. My smile can convey goodwill, communicate delight from an unexpected blessing, or inspire awe at the sight of a star-filled night sky. A child not yet able to talk shares love and joy quite effectively with a sunny smile. I feel happy when others smile at me. This friendly, welcoming gesture reminds me that we are all one in spirit. Smiling at my reflection in a mirror, I see the light that shines from me. I feel a quickened awareness of the divine love and joy that are present everywhere as I realize how simply and beautifully my smile can express that love and joy without any need for words. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Numbers 6:25.
Thank you. And our affirming prayer. And with our affirming prayer, with the completion of this reading, I will ask you for any offered prayers that you would like to have our community hold in unconditional love. And so we will consider your prayer, and we will embrace it and hold it in that crucible of unconditional love for 5-10 seconds. I will complete that offered prayer with "and so it is," and we will then have another offered prayer. So as we center into this sacred space, that space that we occupy with intention of realizing the presence of God, we know that God is a love that has no end and a power that knows no bounds. God's healing power of divine life is restoring, healing, and revitalizing our world in this very moment. We let go of any fears or anxieties, and we affirm that all are safe, healthy, and protected. We bless all those who support us in maintaining vibrant, radiant health. We express divine life in all we think, say, and do. And we bless our global family with radiant health, peace of mind, and abundant love. And so at this time, if you would like to offer some specific prayers, we will hold those prayers in the light.
I will offer a prayer for our country, for peace, for understanding, and for best outcomes in all of the situations we are facing right now. There are so many to list.
I have a prayer request. I have surgery tomorrow.
Let us hold this prayer first. Let us hold this prayer first. And so the prayer for the country and the health of the country. And so it is. Go ahead, Angel.
Oh, I have surgery tomorrow. I just want to know, I just want it to go well.
And so it is.
This is Pam, and my dad may be on, but he and I are going through a time of transition, and it's a joyful one. And prayers for a smooth transition.
I am thinking, great.
And so it is.
I would like to offer prayers for my granddaughter, Katie, who's undergoing stuff. Her ex is trying to take her kids away from her.
Oh, gee.
Really tough.
And that's Katie? Is that right, Lee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Katie Tuttle.
And so it is.
I would like to offer prayers for all those who have lost loved ones. Just hold them in love and support. See them moving through the shadows of pain and into the light of comfort and harmony and peace.
And so it is.
I see. It's up all the way.
I'd like to offer a prayer for Savannah as she is adjusting to college life, as she is recovering from illness that perhaps was food poisoning, but seeing her vital and refreshed and ready to hit the books. And so it is.
I'd like to offer prayers for my granddaughter Sydney, who is also in college down in Texas, and they have 1,300 or more cases in the university itself of COVID, and she wants to be home, but we've got to make sure that she's okay. So it's a just put her in your prayers and us. Thank you.
And that's Sydney, right?
Sydney, yeah.
And so it is. Are there any more prayer requests?
I have one. It's of a joyous nature, but on the 20th day today, in 20 days, my son marries his love of his life, Anna. And navigating, planning a wedding during COVID has proved to be challenging on all fronts. So they've dwindled their numbers down to just a handful. A joyous celebration like David, you did for us. But I just, it'll be all outside. I just pray for great weather, calm, joyous union of the two, and leading up to it, that everyone just can celebrate their love.
Clark is getting married.
Clark is getting married. Little Clark is getting married.
And so it is.
Thank you.
Are there any other prayer requests?
I'd like to ask for prayers for all of the poor animals, the domestic ones and the wildlife, who have been killed and affected by the horrible wildfires everywhere and all the flooding from the hurricanes.
And so it is.
I would like to also add prayers for Janine. There's been 2 different shootings at 2 different Walmarts down in her area, and just prayers of protection for her. She wants to stay there. She loves the people she works with. So just that she's protected.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
I would like to offer a prayer for John and his health issues, and that he just walks through this and recovers and has a much greater joy in life. Thanks.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
I would like to ask for healing for my immediate family in regards to the passing of my ex-husband, Wayne.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
Prayers for my dear friend Donna, whose husband Lawrence passed away yesterday, and that she may be comforted and thought about with prayers, and that she is surrounded by family who will support her in this very difficult time for a long-time family friend. It's sad to hear that he passed.
And prayers for Donna. And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests? And so for all of those prayers unspoken, for all of those that are dealing with loss, with pain, with discomfort, stress, we hold this planet and all of its inhabitants in this vessel of God's unconditional love. We envision the healing of each and every relationship. We envision the healing of each and every soul. And for this, we give thanks. And so together we say Amen.
Amen.
Well, it's been quite a week. As indicated by the prayer requests, there has been a good deal of loss that has been experienced. And so I'd like to begin with a sharing of a piece by a group that you may be familiar with. It's a group that is near and dear to my heart. It's a group called Devotion, and they are no longer as a group, but they've had some recordings that, frankly, I just love. This is one of them.
put a face on AIDS, told his story to the world till he died. And these are the words he said. He said, do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can. Holy Mother from India, helping the sick and the poor. Somebody asked, why do you do these things? She said, this is what I came here for. She said, do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can. This is a gift they gave to us to share wherever we go. Be the change you wish to see in this world. Now I understand what they wanted us to know. You can do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can. One little boy in Africa, do all you can. Holy Mother from India,
So,
Well, it's not that.
how are you doing?
Well, let's see. Well, Mark called and said he could come out.
Hey, let me mute all. There we go. Okay.
That was a beautiful song.
Are we back together? Okay, so do all you can with what you have and the place you are. Oftentimes that is just being present in our own experience and being available to those in our experience that need us. And oftentimes that need is not to do anything, just to be present. We've, over the course of the last several months here in this community, we have experienced a great deal of loss. For us, the loss was that of a beloved pet, but many of us have experienced the loss of loved ones, either to medical issues. A friend of mine was decided to take his own life, and that was to mental issues, and some to just old age. But we have an experience in our life of grief, and how we handle that grief is very important in terms of how we come to grips with the issues that arise, and it's not to transform the grief, but rather it is to process the grief and move through it. Last week I talked about the 40 days that several spiritual traditions regard as sufficient time, but even 40 days may not be enough. But the point is that when you are willing to acknowledge and then address the grief that you are encountering, instead of pushing it aside and trying to get back to normal too soon, or in terms of locking in to the pain that is so common in that grieving experience, but locking into the pain and identifying yourself with the pain, that can go on and on and on and on and on for sometimes many years. It's not uncommon for a parent who has lost a child to have that kind of ongoing, locked-in pain. And that, of course, is unhealthy. We indeed have the opportunity, whether or not we take advantage of it, we have the opportunity to return to an experience of joy. And grief can oftentimes lock us out from that. So this grief is a cause of stress. I mean, it's a different kind of stress. It's different than your boss wanting a report on his desk the next morning that is 3 days of work ahead. But it's a stress nonetheless, and it does affect our health. So the stress environment that we're in, we mentioned the several issues that are confronting not just our country, but the world. But here in this country, we have hurricanes, we have fire, and of course we have this COVID event that is likely to go on for, as many epidemiologists are saying, it's likely to go on for another 12 to 15 months of really hard road ahead, is a phrase that I've heard used. And then we have the prospect of a vaccine. And the vaccine, wow, what a wonderful thing that would be if we could have a vaccine that will that we can immunize the population. But the politicization of the availability of vaccines have caused Americans to have a low level of confidence that the vaccine that comes out is going to be safe and and effective. There was a poll that was released this week that 78% of Americans have concerns about the rush that is happening with the development and release of the vaccines. But again, epidemiologists are saying that it's likely to be mid next year. At least the head of the CDC says it's likely to be mid next year before a vaccine is available to the general public. All of this is a mountain of stress that, whether or not we acknowledge it, it is existing and it is affecting us. So, grief, catastrophes, personal tragedies, stress. Well, grief is an interesting word. It comes from the Latin gravar, which means to make heavy. And I've been considering this question for a number of years, the difference between grieving and a grievance, or the difference between grief and a grievance. A grievance being a grievance arising by some unmet expectation. Grief arising from the loss of something that we had, that we loved, that we cherished. And the commonality of the root word actually is impetus for me to investigate what is a common solution for this grief. So we have the grief as the loss of something that we have cherished, and we have a grievance as the loss of an expectation that was to be. So there is some association there, even in the definition of those two states. Well, it turns out that as we look at this process of giving love before, it turns out that Quinn is using this in the context of relieving grief, and indeed it is very applicable to that. To relieve grief and to relieve a grievance, both. The process is to give this unconditional love before the fact. The interesting thing is that when we encounter grief, when we encounter the loss of someone that we cherish, someone or something, but let's talk about someone that we cherish. When we lose someone that we cherish, we are embraced by this grief, and it can indeed be all-consuming, all-occupying. It can be, it can focus our energy on that loss. 98%, the other 2% used for doing bodily needs and that sort of thing. But it can be an all-consuming kind of process, and very difficult for us to drop back and say, oh, okay, that's right. When I am in grief, what I have to do is give love before. So the practice of giving love to the moment, giving unconditional love to the moment, is a very important preamble to the encounter of grief, so that we can recognize what is going on in our grieving and step back and say, I know how to deal with this. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to feel the grief. I'm going to be immersed in the grief. I'm going to, as I referenced Macduff saying in Macbeth last week, I'm going to feel the grief like a man, and then I can deal with the grief. I'm going to feel the grief like a woman, and then I can deal with the grief. But the point is, I'm going to feel that grief. I'm going to acknowledge that energy. I'm going to acknowledge the loss and recognize that right now, my focus is to grieve. And there will be a time, maybe in the near future, maybe in the extended future, but there will be a time when I will want to be done with it. I will have grieved all of my grief. I will have cried all of my tears. And it is at that point when we can recognize that the next step then is to give unconditional love, not to anything in particular. We can certainly give unconditional love to the person that we lost. We can certainly give unconditional love to this situation or that situation in our current experience. But the healing power of unconditional love occurs when we allow that love to flow through us without any specificity. Allow that love to flow into the moment and touch each aspect of the moment. Allow that unconditional love to be truly unconditional and allow it to be expressed through us. Because it is only in the expression of that love that we are able to experience that love. It's only in the giving of that love without any conditions, without any expectations, without any acknowledgement of any return love. I mean, we may choose to, but to expect a return love makes that unconditional love immediately conditional. So the process of giving unconditional love is the process that is the healing process. Jesus has offered us this passage, and he is referencing a passage that is in a conversation with Peter, and it is this. Peter came to him and said, "Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times?" Now Peter is taking the perspective of this being a conditional love. This is being love that I offer just, I'll offer it 6 times or maybe 7 times if the person really deserves it, right? But Jesus responds with this. And he said, not 7 times, but I tell you 77 times. And some translations say 700 times. And the point is that it is not something that you delve out based upon some criteria or some sufficiency, but rather you give it unconditionally. You give it constantly. You don't wait for acknowledgement of it. You don't look for any conditions that are being changed by it, but rather you give it without consideration of anything that appears in your experience. You just give that love unconditionally. And so this perspective then of giving love unconditionally is a perspective that is difficult for us in our secular experience to fully grok, to fully understand that this process is one of allowing that which is to be part of our day-to-day practice, giving love unconditionally. So we practice that. It is a practice that we allow ourselves to encounter, whether we are we have just crashed again on Facebook, and we'll just have to let that go. So this process is one that we practice. It's the way we get to Carnegie Hall. We practice. So that when that grief arises, and when we have processed that grief sufficiently, when we have cried all of our tears, when we have let go of our need to hang on to that grief interminably, then we are prepared to offer unconditional love. And you can practice this. You can test this out. You don't need to take my word for it and say, well, this is what David said. But rather you can practice this, and you can continue in that practice so that it becomes second nature. At the point when you see something that is upsetting, you can offer unconditional love. When someone says something to you that is offending, you can practice unconditional love. When someone, when something is missing from your experience that you wanted to have in your experience, but it's no longer going to be there, yes, you can grieve that, and you can offer unconditional love. Because that unconditional love is a healing balm that is always available to you. It is something that doesn't cost you a thing except awareness and attention and intention. Attention and intention. And so that tool is something that you don't need to spend $5,000 for a weekend seminar to gain the skills in. All you need to do is practice. Practice, practice, practice. So, practicing unconditional love. It is the polishing of our bulletproof spirit. It is the acquisition and the perfection of a skill that will lead us to what I regard as a state of joy, or an option of joy. I mean, we can choose joy or not. That's the point, is that we have the choice to experience the joy when we practice that. So, practicing that unconditional love is truly taking a load off your shoulders. It is a way to relieve stress. It is a way to relieve grievances, and it is a way to heal grief. We'll have our meditation. Maestro, if you would, please. So in this time, in this place, here in this sacred space defined by our intention to make it so. This sacred space allows our offering of unconditional love in this moment. As we allow love to flow through us into this moment, let us pay attention. Is this truly unconditional? Have I said that this person here deserves it and that one over there doesn't? Have I said that this situation is appropriate for offering it and that situation is not? If so, that's not the love that I'm talking about. The love that I'm talking about is that love that flows through us. It's from an endless source. As we allow it to spread into this moment, to flow across the planet, and to spread into the universe. That's the love that I'm talking about. That's the love that Pierre Desjardins spoke of as the binding energy of the universe. That unconditional love. A way to stimulate that might be to think about an experience where you have had that feeling of connection with someone, not because of what they did, but because of just their beingness. I find when I look into the eyes of a child that I can get that sense of unconditional love. Some people are able to connect with animals in that same way. It certainly is a value of having those animals in our life. Some people can find that in the consideration of a sunset, the appreciation of the glory of the colors, the dynamics of the planet. our place in this glorious environment that supports life. Wow. What gifts we have been given. And because we are an instrument, because we are a conveyance, because we are an expression of the presence of God, we can be as that unconditional love that flows from God through us into this moment. So allow yourself to settle into that experience of unconditional love right now. Feel the burden in your consciousness lifted. Feel the stress dissipate. Feel your connection with all that is be reaffirmed, to be enlivened, to be vitalized. Feel what that feels like, because that feeling nature of unconditional love tells you that you are truly in the present moment. You are experiencing it now. The healing is happening right now. And as we allow ourselves to reconnect with our bodies, reconnect with our environment, we remember this feeling of unconditional love, and we allow that remembrance of it to be the hook that allows us to reconnect in the future present with that sense of unconditional love. That is your tool, the remembrance of that feeling, to bring it into the then present. Breathing in and breathing out, we come back into this with an acknowledgement that we are truly vessels of the divine. We are truly the expressions of God's love in this moment when we choose to be. And we are empowered now to make that choice. And so it is. How are you doing? I'd like to share our offering blessing. And together, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. And once again, you can go to the chat box and you can access this particular link, tinyurl.com/Living Water Unity Donate. That will allow you to set up that will allow you to set up either one-time or recurring contributions. And we very much appreciate your support of our ministry. So let me share with you this song by Karen Drucker, called The Healing Song.
Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Peace fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. God fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. God fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does.
All healing energy flows through me now. Harmony, balance, vitality, that glorious wisdom that creates and sustains health is mine. I live in divine well-being now and always.
Yeah. Joy fills every cell in my body. Every cell is alive with love. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what it does. Joy fills every cell in my body, and I am alive. I relax into the healing process. I allow Spirit to do what.
How are you doing? Good? Okay. Well, Doug, if you would accompany us on our benediction. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, Doug.
Yep.
So, we are clear. We are clear. It says that we are clear.